What a time to be alive in the NFL season. Um, so yeah, been quite a year. I look at my team, and that Ravens game, it went exactly the way I thought it could go. I said, there's going to be some BS here and there. It's a rivalry game, and it's probably going to be a one-score game. And the Steelers, they beat them by 7. Kenny Pickett audibled out of a play to score the game-winning touchdown. And I think people are still chanting for Matt Canada to be gone, especially off that. Thank gosh, we have a bye week. Um, but like I said, I mean, I got the Ravens. I told you it's going to be a close game, and the next time when they play in Pittsburgh, the same thing could happen, except for it goes or when we play in Baltimore, because this one was in Pittsburgh. I think that's why I originally went with it. It could go the other way. Baltimore wins, and but so the Steelers have a bye. The Ravens, off that loss, there's a lot of drop passes in the game. They should have won, basically. But like I said, it's a rivalry game. It's the Steelers Ravens. It's probably the most brutal rivalry in NFL and maybe in all sports, as far as contact sports, I guess you could say. But the Ravens, I think they go to Tennessee and win. I mean, I still think the Ravens probably, in the end, will edge the Steelers out for the division. I don't want to say that. Like I want to say, Pittsburgh's got it. And had they beat Houston last week and they were 4-1, I'd be like, okay, here we go. But they got the same record. They do have the advantage now, but it'll just determine how they play down the stretch. And so, and the Ravens also dropped that game to the Colts earlier in the season. So who knows? It'll probably be a close call. The Bengals bounced back against the Cardinals. That was something I don't pretty much thought Cincinnati was dead in the water. I mean, and the Cardinals aren't fantastic, but the Bengals dropped 34 on them. And going into the Seattle game, Seattle's really good. I'll just be honest with you. I think that um, even if they figure it out, if the Bengals figure it out, I think Seattle might win a close game, like a one-score game. Um, and even though it's in Cincinnati, Cleveland had a bye week last week. Unfortunately, and they have the best. I didn't realize this until I started listening to people talk about it. I haven't really looked it up 100%, but I think that right now the Cleveland Browns have the best defense in football. I think that's the case. I'm actually going to check just to be sure. They have the well, so they have the third best scoring defense, but you look at their stats, best in yards, best against the pass, like fourth against the rush in yards and second against yards per attempt. And then you go like drives, like they are number one in defensive where the drive starts, how many plays are on average, or how many plays they have, and then how many yards and how many points to score. I mean, so the Browns are for real defensively. But I think that the 49ers are the most complete team in the NFL, and they're kind of distancing themselves. Now the Eagles are still there because they've not lost, and they're still were the Super Bowl runner up last year, so you got to respect the Eagles. But I just think after what they did to Dallas last week, I don't think Cleveland will be able to one not turn the ball over and also hold them to enough points to win because San Francisco scored 30 points a game, 30 at least 30 points a game this season so far. But yeah, so I think Cleveland ends up losing that one. Kansas City, and like I said before, I didn't get this recorded before the game started, and so because of that, I went with whichever team I thought would have more thought would be have more wins, and so obviously I put Kansas City above Denver, and I'm probably not going to pick Denver game this year, quite literally. I just don't think they're that great. Now Kansas City is showing a little bit of a weakness. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, and I don't want to say anything, but it seems like there are some controversial calls at the end of the past 3 games, and it ain't been good opponents. I mean, it's been the Jets, the Vikings, and the Broncos. The Jets are the best of those three, but I understand calls happen throughout the game, but you're one call at the end of the game away from the possibility of them being 3 losses. Now, obviously, um, Kansas City put 19 points on the board, but I think this was before the field goal, so you never know what can happen. And so I think Kansas City's 5-1, but I don't think it's necessarily an earned 5-1. But so we go to the Chargers. I got the Chargers beating the Cowboys off of bye week. I think Dallas is struggling now. I think that game last week will really it shook them up a little bit. You just realize, like on paper, how close it was that Dallas and San Francisco were from a roster by roster, position by position standpoint, and it just and I mean, San Francisco went in there and ran over them. You just lose by 30 or whatever it was, 32 or that hits the morale pretty hard, and people are starting to doubt Dak now, which people have done that every about the past couple years. I give it the Chargers. I don't know how good the Chargers are this year, but I think they're good enough to beat Dallas in this game off a bye. And the Raiders, this was a tough game for me because they just beat the Packers. I don't know what's going on with New England. I don't think anybody really knows. All I know is that they have had the worst 2 losses in Bill Belichick's history as the coach the past 2 weeks. The worst home loss last week to the Saints, and the week before they lost to the who was it, Dallas? Him 38-3. It just ain't looking good for New England. Uh, and so I think the Raiders win that game. I think it's at home. It's in Las Vegas. I think you give it to the Raiders. I said Denver. They lost to the Jets. They lost to Kansas City. I don't really know who the Broncos can actually compete against. They'll probably win some games. Like I said, I don't think they go like 2-15. I don't. I mean, 5-12 is still kind of rough, but I don't think they go 2-15. Indianapolis beat Tennessee. This is probably the most contested division in the entire NFL right now. But Jacksonville also had 2 pretty big wins in London, or I think they're both in London. Um, and I just think Jacksonville continues. I mean, I know the Colts are somewhat good, but the Jacksonville's starting to turn it on. I know they lost to Kansas City and then they lost to Houston in a rough game, but now they're starting to get it. They beat Buffalo, if they beat Indianapolis, win a couple more games, try and get up in the lead in the AFC South. They could go maybe not a second round playoff appearance, but they could win the division easily. Tennessee competing for the division. They lost to Indianapolis last week. They probably lose to Baltimore this week. This entire division is every game is a must win because you never know who may or may not lose, and everybody's got the same record. It feels like, and there's not one team sticking their head out above the others. Houston. This was also a tough game because Houston has the ability to pop on teams and go off. But I mean, the Saints blew out the Patriots 34-0. I mean, and that was in New England. So it's like I go with the Saints. I'm rolling with the hot hand there. And Jacksonville, like I said, I think they beat the Colts. They just beat the Bills and the Falcons. They ain't been in the United States in about 2 or 3 weeks now, but they're back and they'll be playing the Colts. I just think they beat the Colts. I really do. Buffalo. I mean, this is a reset game for them because they need a good win. The Giants haven't really shown anything from last year, and I don't know. I think Buffalo still probably wins this division at the end. I thought Miami would swing in there after a little bit and beat them, but then uh, they destroyed the Dolphins. So they're still the best team in the AFC East. The Patriots, like I said, they are struggling right now. I think they won one game this year, and they need some wins. It just doesn't feel right after all these years to see the Patriots go like You know, like if they were to go like 6-11 or 5-12 or something, it just wouldn't feel right. After going, I think Tom Brady when he was there, I think his worst record as a full time starter was like 10. The Jets. The Jets have a tough one. They beat the Broncos in Denver, but I don't think they beat the Eagles. I mean, this could be the game where the uh, they take a step forward and the Eagles get hit by a really good defensive team and maybe lose a close game. You never know. I still think Philadelphia edges them out. And then we go to Green Bay. Like I said, they lost to the Raiders. They got a bye week. Not really a big deal. I think this is the Lions' division to lose, so it's really a matter of if you want to get that second wild card. Because I still think there'll be two teams from the NFC East. I still think there'll probably be two teams from the NFC West, and it's a matter of do you want to be that next wild card, the last wild card. And there, it's pretty much Green Bay, and then I would say I don't know, maybe Green Bay, maybe the Commanders are still in contention for it. I guess the Bucks and the Saints. I guess that's who it would be right now. Probably would be the two teams from the NFC South. So if you really want it, you got to win some games. And that's the thing about the Vikings. I don't know. Vikings have won one game and it was at Carolina. They go to Chicago. They don't have Justin Jefferson. I go with the Bears there. I really do. I think the Bears after they had a really good lead against the Broncos and the Broncos came back and then they beat the Commanders pretty convincingly. I think they if they have 3 wins in a row right here, and you're looking at a Chicago Bears team that's 3-3 instead of I guess they're 2-4, it could be a whole different ball game. Or no, they're not 2-4. They're 1-4. But they could be 2-3 and be the next game go up to even. They're 1-4. I think they beat Minnesota. They're still in contention for that extra wild card. You just really don't know. Detroit, they beat Carolina. They're on a 3-game winning streak. They go to Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay probably is neck and neck with the Saints for the best team in the NFC South. But I think Detroit can beat Tampa Bay. They're kind of on a little bit of a run here, 3 in a row. You look at it and you say, oh, yeah, it's the Falcons, Packers, and Panthers, but still have a good chance to win that game. They did beat the Saints earlier in the year. We got to remember, the Saints, they did beat the Chiefs first game of the season. So I think they got something. And let's go to the NFC West. So we got the Rams. Rams lost to the Eagles. But they go to, they play against the Cardinals. I think they get a dub. And they're also in contention trying to make 3 teams of the NFC West are a wild card team because they're 2-3 right now. Arizona, like I just saying, they beat Dallas earlier in the year and it was a huge game for them and a very telling game for the Cowboys. But I think Arizona loses to the Rams. 49ers, goes without saying, they're the best team in football. They probably go into Cleveland and win by like 2 touchdowns, I would say. And I had them at 11-13. I think when I did that original record picking, I thought I was going to put them at 14-17, but then I kind of decided I backed off of it. I think they're right there. I think they could probably go 14-3 easily. Seattle had a bye week last week. They go to Cincinnati. They're 3-1, and they want to make sure if you can't catch the 49ers, you at least want to be on pace to have the first wild card because to be fair, with Dallas being 3-2 right now, Seattle wins they got that first wild card spot. Actually, I guess technically they have it right now because they don't have a 1 loss. But they beat the Bengals, that'd be huge for them. The Panthers, it's just been rough for them. They're 0-5 right now, and you have to go to Miami, who's pissed because they lost. Yeah. Oh well, no, they beat the Giants. They're still pissed off about the Buffalo game 2 weeks removed from it. Yeah, and they got the running backs injured. I still think they beat the Panthers. Probably lose to them. The Saints, destroyed the Patriots. They're 3-2 right now. They're a close game away from being a 4-1 team that with that game against Green Bay. And well, I guess the Buccaneers game was close too. Houston's gonna be a tough opponent. I think they get it. And to be fair, if they win that game and Tampa Bay loses, they're the one team. They're the one seed in the NFC South. And going to Tampa Bay off of bye, Detroit's a tough team, and I just don't think they got it. The Falcons beat the Texans last week. Commanders. This was a toss up for me. I could have went either way. I just went with Atlanta. I just think they've been, even though they lost the games to Detroit and Jacksonville, they've won some pretty quality games. Some close ones, but some quality ones. Philadelphia, I mean, you look at their schedule so far, they've pretty much beaten everybody they should. Everybody. They go to the Jets. I think they win that game, but this could be a wake up call for them. They could lose this game. I think they still win. Dallas, I mean, they just got embarrassed last week. And honestly, it's the next game's in at the Chargers. I think they lose it. I don't know. They could turn it on and they could beat the Chargers by 30. But I'm going with the loss. Like I said, the Commanders, they lost to the Bears. I think they lose the Falcons. I mean, they're 2-2 or 2-3, and so they, in theory, they win this game somehow, they would be in that wild card contention. And the Giants, they just haven't felt right all year. I don't know what it is about the Giants, but they just haven't felt right all year. Yeah, I don't, and like I said, I don't know what that is, but I just don't. They just don't have what they had last year when they were winning the games earlier in the season. But yeah, I think right now there is about the 49ers, and then you have the Eagles probably right here. The 49ers are way up here. The only reason the Eagles are up here, they're undefeated. And they were Super Bowl runner up. So I think 49ers and Eagles. I think the Chiefs are actually almost at the Bills level. I think the Bills and Chiefs are about the same level. And I'm just saying this because the Chiefs have played one score games against three teams who people don't consider good. And their other wins where they blew out the Bears, who really, most people would say aren't good, and they beat Jacksonville by like maybe 10, and they lost to Detroit. I just don't think Kansas City's as good as they should be. And then after that, because I'm going to do a power rankings about every 4 weeks, and then past that, you got like the Dolphins, got the Lions are creeping in there. I mean, Dallas is still there, I guess technically. Um, Yeah, I mean, if the Steelers pull off a few more wins, because I think I remember looking at their schedule when I said they had potential to be 9-2 through 12 weeks. So if which also had them beating the Texans, that is one of them. But if they are 8-3, Pittsburgh could make their way up to that conversation. It's just there's a lot of factors that it's like week by week. Like the Dolphins. The Dolphins are really good. I hope Tua stays healthy the whole season. But you just in that like the running back got hurt, and I hate that. Like I don't like injuries, especially even the whole thing with Aaron Rodgers getting hurt the first 3 plays of the season. That sucks. But it'll be interesting because like I said, I think 49ers Eagles. You got like Chiefs Bills and maybe like the Dolphins are in there somewhere, and then Dallas is still trying to edge their way up there, and but then there's a pack of like probably 15, 20 teams that are like not much different. And then there might be a couple teams that are at the bottom, like two or three teams at the bottom. But it's really, there's not a bunch of bad teams and not a bunch of really good teams. We'll see what happens.